Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Internado. We're brought to you by Higher Echelon, a company run by Joe Ross, former Army fullback, former Army assistant, former Army officer. And man, I think Joe Ross and all the old grads are very happy today. Still probably high off that win, that 17-11 win by Army over Navy at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. Steve Anderson's one of them, still probably, like you said, your heart's probably still racing, Steve, after that one. We have Steve Anderson, Seth Mendelson, and Brendan in Jersey here to recap it. We got so much to get into with the game. I have a couple little behind the scenes things to add too, so we might as well just get to it. 17-11. The game seemingly was in Army's hands after Caleb Fortner strip sacked Ty Levitai, took it 44 yards to the house, Steve. It's 17-3. I think it's at least halfway through the fourth quarter. Navy comes back, and it comes down to another goal line stand. It comes down to second year in a row, a goal line stand. I'm in the back of the end zone where the goal line stand is happening. We won't get into the video that I might have not have gotten because of my phone. But, just like that was incredible for it to end that way. And to me, my thought is, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong here. You might have to dip into the archives, but when is the last time an Army-Navy game ended on a safety? And the team that gave up the safety won the game, So, I mean, you can't make this stuff up sometimes. Like Coach Monken said, welcome to the Army-Navy game. This is what happens. Steve, why don't you take it away with your opening thoughts?
Two things. Old grads are moving slow today because we celebrated a lot last night. So very moving slow. I don't know if on a high is the right adjective right now. I mean, we were moving very, very slow this morning. That's for sure. Second thing, well, break your heart to see the safety because most people had the under in the game, and that took the over. So, I was hoping we'd make Scott Van Pelt's Bad Beats on ESPN late night where everyone, we get the under. It was over under was 28.5. The safety puts it over, puts it to 29. The over hits when it's like the unders like usually hits in the Army-Navy game, obviously. So, but man, what a great day. I don't think it ever should have got to that point. I think I think the worst defense ever in the history of defenses is the prevent. I think it's just the worst. You don't run it all game. You stop them all game. And then you go to it at the very end. And this isn't just Army. This is every single team that runs prevent. You stop the team all day, and then you go to prevent, and then they just take it down the field. So, my phone's getting blown up. Like, what? Why don't we just press them? Like, we're stronger than them. Blah blah blah. All this stuff. Anyway, man, tell you what, the people that bought tickets to that game got a show for the ages, and for it to end on the half-yard line again, those are the types of leaders we're going to need leading our men and women on the battlefield in the future, is guys that just do not give an inch when an inch is needed. And it's poetic, if I want to go back to poetry, whatever I did. I think it's just poetic that you have guys that are fighting on the line in their future. And that was just kind of a good symbolism there for the end of the game.
Yeah, real quick before we get Seth's take, I just want to note on that goal line stand, right? Officially getting credit for the tackle was Andre Miller. And after the press conference, Jeff Monken's press conference yesterday, I asked him about that a little bit. And the fact that Coach Monken said he thinks about Andre Miller being able to play every day after, what happened in Syracuse, where he was on the turf, he was rushed to the hospital and stuff. And for Andre Miller to make a comeback, right? And to have him, and I have the video. My video may not be like, A++, but you see at the end that Andre's still holding Levitai back to the very end, even when the referees are still trying to, signal the call. And he's like you said, Steve, he's fighting to the very end of that play. And to see that Andre Miller come back this season and to see him in the middle of that play at the end, that says a lot for me. So Seth, go ahead. Your opening statement. So
well, first of all, 1971, Army beat Navy 24-23, and the game ended on this Army safety. They were lined up to punt, and they took the ball.
Leave it to Seth, baby. Leave it to Seth.
Well, let me tell you,
he was there probably.
I wasn't there, but I'm older than you guys. I watched the game, and I thought it was wow, what a smart play. So it was 1971. Another interesting thing we have to talk about is on the third down play, the Navy receiver threw the ball to the ref, and the ref dropped the ball. He kind of threw it over the ref's head, and the ref reached for it and couldn't get it. They stopped the clock. I'm not sure that's legal. I've been looking for it all day to figure out, and I talked to a referee, a high school referee, who says that clock should continue to run. It's not the fault, so it's interesting. They may not have had the opportunity to get a fourth down play. I agree.
Because that punt definitely hit his foot too. That's two plays.
We'll go into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
That's a whole nother thing. I thought the first 3.5 quarters Army dominated. Navy didn't know what to do out there. They kept shooting themselves in the foot, almost literally, shot themselves in the foot when that ball went off his. Well, I agree. I thought it went off his foot. And Army was in control. Up 17-3 with 5-6 minutes left in the game. I thought it was over, but. You got to also remember those two illegal procedure calls made it third and 20 or second and 20. I'm not sure which one that was. Army got to fourth and 3.
20, I think. Yeah.
It was the first. Okay, whatever. They got to be 4th and 3. He punted the ball. It was a terrible punt, unfortunately. But the punt went, I think, 11 or 14 yards, and Navy was able to drive down the field for that exciting ending. Listen, Army won the game. When they look back 50 years from now, they're going to say Army won in 2023, and that's the end of the line. That's it. Really happy for the kids, happy for the coaching staff, happy for the academy. Not happy for me and Sal, who drove home 6 hours or 5.5 hours and got home at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. But everybody else, I'm happy for.
It's all worth it. It's all worth it, Seth.
It was worth it. It was a great game. I know we'll talk more about the offense in a bit, but that's the only thing I'd like to talk about. Looking forward. This season's over. They won 4 games in a row. They beat Air Force. They weren't supposed to beat Air Force. Air Force was supposed to be a great team. They beat Air Force. They beat Coastal Carolina, a very good team. And then they beat Navy, which was, I know Brendan talks about this all the time. Navy's everything, and Air Force and Navy are everything. And Army did what they had to do. Looking back, I wish they would have won 1 or 2 more games, but they didn't. But they won the key games, and I had a blast up there yesterday, as I did last year in Philly, and then 2 years ago up in the Meadowlands. It ended the wrong way, but I always enjoy this game. It's college football at its best.
Brendan, take it away.
Well, real quick, we got a comment from Andrew S. Has there ever been a more impressive midseason turnaround in Army history? I don't know which is more impressive, but even coming into this season, just with kind of all the things that were up in the air, I kind of felt like this might be a season akin to 1986, where they don't necessarily win every game they should, but they still do something special. And 1986, I believe they started 3-5 and won their last 3, including beating Air Force and Navy to win the CIC. And that's kind of similar to how this season went. But in terms of the game, I was really happy, even though Army wasn't scoring as much as I wish they had. It just felt like they had the game in control. It felt like to go back to the old NCAA video games back when that was a thing. It felt like they had the momentum meter on their side, kind of no matter what the circumstances was, up until the last 5 minutes or so of the fourth quarter. I actually thought that, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into the offense, but I was actually pretty happy with the offense most of the time. I mean, there was a moment where all of a sudden they were like throwing out some wildcat, and Navy seemed really confused, and it was almost to me it was almost like a Roddy Piper moment for Drew Thatcher, where it was like just when they think they got the answers, I change the questions, but somehow it just fizzled out. A lot of the fourth down decisions. I mean, I don't want to be Mr. Hindsight, but as sort of like it was sort of like a lot of the wrong buttons were like, the right button wasn't always pushed at the right time. There were moments where I felt like they should have gone for a field goal instead of going for it, or punted, or not punted. Yeah, I mean, listen, they won. Army was the better team, and I hate to say it because I didn't enjoy it, but compared to Air Force, who got punched in the mouth and just folded, Navy never folded. They fought to the end, and I certainly agree that I think they had a hedge of protection from the officials that Army didn't necessarily benefit from going their way. Not that it was the worst officiated game I've ever seen, but certainly that one punt, I thought it was pretty clear that the video showed it went off the Navy guy's foot. But what can you do?
Yeah.
Real quick, I think what we're going to see is this is probably going to be one of those teams that kind of how we've had, Ronnie Makeda talk about the 95 team, our 2009 team that just underachieved, really talented, but there was either a change, there was something new about the team, and they just couldn't win the games that they were supposed to win early on. And I think of our 2009 team where I thought we were extremely athletic that year, but we just lost close games, or we lost games that we should have won. And we weren't quite over that hump yet. And I think what we saw was a lot of that stuff with the new offense. I know we won early at with UTSA, but just having that one service that could have been matchups. There's a lot of variables that go into winning football games. So, I think next year and a couple years down the road, we're going to be able to look back at this year and say it was just a team that was a little immature or a little, there are too many new things going on where they couldn't quite win. But once they figured it out towards the end of the year, man, we ran Wildcat. What is that? What is that? Yeah. When's the last Seth, don't look this up or don't go into the archives, but when's the last time
I don't have it.
Army ran Wildcat?
I don't think ever. I don't remember.
Kanye Udo said they ran one Wildcat play against Boston College. Maybe I don't quite remember that. Brendan, do you remember that?
I mean, it was
I'm sure Army's run like single Wildcat plays like in various games over the years. I never remember a series where it was quite prominent like that.
Yeah, man.
But anyway, just I that's how I feel about how this kind of the season ended and how it ended on the streak, beating Coastal, handling Coastal, and then handling, for all intents and purposes, Navy. I mean, we physically dominated Navy, the entire game until we went to prevent defense. So, really, really, really proud of these guys. And like I said earlier, those seniors are going to be able to build off of this as they go and lead America's sons and daughters.
Yeah, a quick point, Brendan. I have to say this because you made the Roddy Piper reference. Jeff Monken, before the alma maters played, he did a little Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he said, "Can he get a little hell yeah?" And the core gave him a hell yeah. The players gave him a hell yeah. I have that on video. Check out our YouTube channel. We have all the press conferences from Bryson Daly to Kanye Udo to Caleb Fortner, Leo Lowen, Coach Monken. I have the march-ons up there. I have the hell yes. I have the alma maters. Check out our YouTube channel. Our subscriptions jumped up pretty decently yesterday. We really appreciate it. Our Instagram numbers are up. Our coverage went through the roof. Seth did a great game story. please read that game story. I wrote a story on Caleb Fortner on his MVP performance. We'll get into that in a few minutes. I'm writing a story on Kanye Udo. That's going to be up after the podcast. 2 photo galleries. I mean, we just tried to cover it the best we can. And I got to thank Seth. I got to thank our photographers, Lynn Fern and Margaret Kite and Ed Diller for being there. We covered it as best as we could. We had full wall coverage there. And guys, please check that out. Please check our website out. And if you have any questions, you guys are already your comments are already coming in. Please feel free to comment. We'll get your comments on. We'll talk about it. We'll break them down now. You want to go to some comments real quick, or what you want to talk about, Liam?
I just want to say
a little bit
to Steve's comment about the team. I think this team grew up. I agree with him. This is a team that was 2-6 and finished 6-6. And Jeff Monken talked a lot about, early in the season, talked a lot about penalties and talked really a lot about turnovers. And they didn't turn the ball over at the end of the year. They really didn't. The penalties, well, there were no holding penalties against Army on Saturday, yesterday. The penalties seemed to decrease. There was some still. We had some illegal procedures. I get that. I think we had a couple of didn't they have a couple of too much time penalties, 5 yards?
Real quick on the illegal procedure penalties, Coach Monken seemed to infer that their calls were based on clapping, and Navy was clapping too. Brendan, is that disconcerting signals potentially, or no? Or just I don't know what disconcerting signals was or is, or that is that.
I mean, as far as I know, it's something in that area, but I guess it's one of those things where it's kind of a nebulous judgment call. I don't know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Seth.
No, but I think this team grew up. I really did. I think this is we're going to look back, over the winter and before next season, we're going to say this is a pretty good team and a lot of talent on there. Defensively, especially, I was so impressed with the talent of these guys and what they did. And the last 4 games, this was a different team. Now, and maybe the coaches changed too. Maybe their philosophy changed a little bit. We certainly saw it against Coastal Carolina. It was a different team. Boy, do I wish it was, it started out that way. But, it is what it is.
I do think that the gauntlet of really good teams in a row, although we took the L's, I think it prepared us for the end of the season. I mean, that was no cupcake stretch.
Not at all.
The front middle of the season there. So I think, to your point, Seth, maturing, growing up is a good thing, because they got some, you learn more when you touch the stove and it's hot than when someone tells you not to touch the stove, right? So I agree on to that point.
And that is Steve, as you said, that's very 1995, where they had like heartbreaking losses like to Duke and Washington and Notre Dame early in that season.
And the tie to Notre Dame, they could have tied Notre Dame. They went for 2 points.
Yeah. See, let's go to James McElrath. Seasons like this are the reason why I love Army football. I guess he's talking about how they kind of kept on fighting to the end, right? Like we talked about. And you go to real quick. I wanted to get to this comment if I could find it. Man, we got a lot of comments coming in. Thanks, guys. Mike Fulowski saying that Caleb Fortner is a star, nautical-like performance. Caleb Fortner was the MVP of this game. He had 10 tackles. Now, I wrote that it started on that second play of the game when Navy tried that halfback pass or whatever. Guess who was in the face of the guy throwing the football? Caleb Fortner. Guess who was on that third and goal play that stopped the fullback, Navy's fullback at the 2-yard line, Caleb Fortner. And then that play where he just stripped the ball. Now, James nautical-like performance. James is a friend of the podcast, right? And he gets on Twitter and saying he thinks that was the most clean strip sack that he's seen in a while. Steve, go ahead with that, man. You're the defensive guy.
That was pretty clean, like almost where he didn't touch him. He didn't touch any of him except for the ball. I mean, it was like, give me that. It was like, give me the ball. Like, he was being blocked, fought off the block, and as he was coming through, like, just did this, like, double double arm strafe at the ball, and he just like knocked the ball out, and then it popped up right to him. And he just took off. I was like, that was like he said, it was so clean because like not only did he like swipe just the ball, but the ball bounced right to him. Like he didn't have to like really scoop and score. It was almost like a bounce and a score. And yeah, he scooped and scored, but man, it was super clean.
Yeah, and he says he's looking up at the jumbotron and he's seeing a sea of tan jerseys. He had a convoy basically. Steve, it reminded me of the Armed Forces Bowl play that you had with Josh McNair. Yeah, there were little SMU guys in pursuit there. There was no Navy guys in the picture there. Not a one. I mean,
I think probably saw it way too late. And that was that's when I really thought because of that play and the way Navy reacted to it, I thought that's when they were like, oh, we're done. And that offense came back strong, and that was promising to see. They got to lead people, out at sea or wherever they do that, whatever they do from that academy. So,
real quick, I was reading the transcripts of the Navy press conference, and we weren't there. We were at the Army press conference, and I think that Ty Levitine in one of his quotes said that Fortner got lucky that he knocked the ball away. All right. I mean, but Fortner said that in the press conference that he saw that the quarterback, when they go into that shotgun position and throw, he keeps the ball really loose. So he knew he might have a chance to swipe at it. So, I mean, what a game. Caleb Fortner, he started Syracuse game was his first start when Spencer Jones got hurt. He started all the way through. He's been paired with Leo Lowen, which is a pretty good pairing, Steve, with him and Lowen. Lowen's kind of the IQ guy. I'm not saying Fortner doesn't read plays well. He does, but he's kind of the heavy hitter guy, too, the guy, the playmaker, so to speak, too. And, man, he came up big on Saturday against Navy. And well-deserved MVP, I think. Well-deserved MVP.
I agree.
Do we want to talk about the offense now, or where are we going here? Let's see if we got a couple comments here. Oh, here we go. Let's stick with the defense a little bit more. Max DiDomenico had one of the prettiest textbook picks I've ever seen in a while, where he got up inside the 5-yard line of Army, picked off a pass. He also had a key pass breakup on a deep pass too, where he kind of lunged out and got a piece of a play. I saw Marquel Broughton post something on social media that Max got to play a little bit with Marquel last year. I think he filled in when Marquel got hurt, to be honest with you. And so, man, what a game for Max too. The secondary, like you said, when the secondary wasn't given in the prevent mode, they were making plays on the ball. Jabari Moore and Bo Nicholas Paul had pretty tight coverage in the early stages of the game, and that kind of helped out. So Max had a big game. Brendan, what did you think about the secondary's play before the prevent stuff?
Looked pretty good to me. I mean, the defense all around, up until the end, it was just like it was a great day for him. And I mean, even earlier in the fourth quarter when Navy made it like 10-3 or whatever, I still felt like Army was in control.
Yeah,
we have let's get to that punt play.
Well, real quick, go back to just to kind of, almost, and this is from a defensive mindset, I almost took it as disrespect that Navy tried that trick play, second play of the game. All right, to try to just get just to show, to try to expose us like, hey, they're not reading keys or whatever, almost to like, hey, like we're gonna do this type of shit. And I think our DB, I mean, they were dialed in, they were on it, nobody got fooled, and I think that gave them the confidence, like, yeah, y'all need to try this stuff right off the bat because we're gonna lock you down all day today. And I think it just kind of gave them that confidence, like that's what you're gonna try to beat us with. All right,
yeah,
try to throw the ball downfield. And I as a defensive player, it's just that's how I felt that secondary that took that as disrespect or okay, this is what they have to resort to because they know we've already got them up here. That's how they can only complete passes on this secondary. And I think that's the mentality they had because, I mean, again, up until the prevent, they were lock and stock, baby. It was nice.
How about Q Hammonds? I mean, I'm not sure who had the coverage on that trick play. I think it was Q. I could be wrong. But his speed was pretty evident in this game where Levitide, we thought Levitide was going to bounce outside and get a big gainer. He got about 15, 20 yards, but Hammonds came out of nowhere and pushed him out of bounds to make sure there wasn't a big play in the game. So, I mean, give Q Hammonds a pop. Leo Lowen, another, he seems to really, these Service Academy games, he comes up big in. And also Jimmy Charlo was hitting the edge pretty well and stopping that inside play for Navy. And man, when Xavier Erline was in the game, what was the stat? Like four drives, 24 total yards for Navy or something like that before they went to 11.
It was
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, so I mean, they weren't moving the ball. Army's defense was good, and for the most part, Army's defense kind of carried the team through the season. Let's call it out. I mean, the offense had those moments where they went 159 yards without a score. They scored a touchdown. This is the 5th game of the season out of 12 where they scored 1 touchdown or less on offense. So the defense had to step up. And a lot of credit to Nate Woody, a lot of credit to the players, the assistant coaches. I mean, sometimes those guys don't get enough credit. And I will say real quick, I had Bo Nicholas Paul on live this week, and we talked a little bit about Daryl Dixon and what he's done for the defensive backfield and what he's done for the corners position. Daryl Dixon should get a lot of credit, too, for this defense. I mean, yeah, Nate Woody's calling the plays and stuff like that, but those assistant coaches, John Luce, Daryl Dixon, Sean Cronin, I'm missing another person there. The secondary coach, Danny Verpail. Those guys should get a lot of credit for what goes into this defense. That I just wanted to give those guys their props here.
This was a good defensive team. This was a good defense. Take out the LSU game, which of course you got to take out. This defense I was impressed with it all season, even games they lost. Sometimes they were on the field way too long. Sometimes they were given the opponent was getting the ball in very good field position. This was a good defensive team. Last year's was also.
I mean, when you lose like Marquell Broughton and Andre Carter from a defense, that they are two of the more legit players that you've had that position in a long time, and you can rebound with a defense that they put out this year. It's pretty impressive. Yeah, they had a lot of upperclassmen play. There's a lot of seniors on this team, but they had to do some replacing, and they found some good fits and stuff. So let's
have to do some replacing for next year too. Now we're losing a
why do we have to talk about that right now, Seth? Why can't we enjoy the Army Navy game?
Okay,
why do we have to talk about that right now?
Just saying, these are good players, very good players.
But wait, on cue here, Gregory Grant says Army's going to win the American next year.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's talking about this punt return that hit the Navy's foot, didn't hit the Navy's guy's foot. I was actually in the end zone closest to the play, and I was just following Ijon Marshall's lead on that play. Did I zoom in on if the ball hit his foot or not? I didn't. I was focusing on how Marshall reacted to it, and when Marshall went right after the ball, and the Navy return guy went right after Marshall, it's kind of telling you that something happened there, right? Yeah. And my thinking here, real quick, and we'll get your guys' opinion, is that official on the sideline has to make the call right, because if he doesn't make the call right, they're going to go with the play on the call on the field. They're going to find inconclusive evidence. They're going to say, oh, we couldn't figure it out. So whatever the call on the field was going to stand. So if he would have said Army football, it would have been Army football. But the thing is now, it seems like officials so much today will just try to make a call that will lead to a review so the review can get it right, And I don't understand why these officials can't, regardless if it's a punt, a catch, a touchdown scored, don't rely on the replay. Make the right call on the field. That's what you're paid to do. And I get everybody makes mistakes. I get it. Nobody's perfect in officiating. We as Army fans, we know that all too well, but make the right call on the field. If the right call was made on the field, it would have been Army ball.
Look,
But
just-
the video showed that the ball hit his foot. I mean, everybody in the press box.
it's 2023. Okay, we have the technology. Everybody, just we need a referee sitting at home and watching the replay on TV, because it seems to be clear to everybody watching TV that you can tell it hit the foot. But whatever they see in their booth can't be what we all see out on TV, because they got it wrong. And everybody who watched that, it was clear that it hit his foot. To your point, Sal, just look at the player. The player knew he messed up and immediately tried to rectify it. And I don't know why refs, to this day, I still don't understand it. Just let the play go. Let the play out, okay? And then go back and review it, and you can make any adjustment you want to any point in the play that you think the play should have stopped. But whenever you stop it prematurely, it's over. There's no more. Just let the play, and whenever everybody stops, then go back and review whatever they need to review. But yeah, I mean, the guy, that Navy player, integrity violation. I'm gonna have to bring him up. Cadet will not lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate those who do. All right. So actually, I don't think Navy has the tolerate. I think Navy's is just a cadet or a midshipman won't lie, cheat, or steal. So, but yeah, I mean, he clearly lied. All right. So he's been found guilty on TV. Too bad.
You know what? And while they're reviewing that, you think I'm thinking on the field, I'm like, okay, this is going to be Army's ball. And what a great moment it would be for Ijon Marshall to make a play like that. This is a guy who was scoring touchdowns as a slot back last year, and he's playing gunner on special teams his senior year. He's playing gunner on special teams his senior. He's doing everything he can for the team to win. I'm like, what? It would be a great moment for him. And then you get everybody is totally shocked about it. And then you get the old review. Then you get the review on the 4th down and goal play, which, Steve, I don't know. I guess you could definitely see that Levitai did not get over the line, but who knows on that? Maybe they would have reversed that call, They didn't know what they were doing at the end of that call. They had 1st down on the yard marker. Navy was out on the field. Why are you letting Navy out on the field when you're still reviewing the play? Navy was ready to get under center for a 5th down. It was 4th down. They didn't get in. Why was Navy offense even on the field? It was 4th down. They didn't get in. Navy's seeing a 1st down markers thinking, I don't even know what's going on there. And you're like, thank God they got it right.
Yeah. Well, but if they didn't mark turnover on downs, if the referees got confused, we've already seen Navy's integrity. Okay. They just lied about a punt. They would have said, oh no, it's 4th down again or whatever. Who knows?
He got that 4th down play off with 6 seconds left, 6 or 7 seconds left. You're telling me, because they stopped it at 3 seconds, there was more than 4 seconds of jostling going back and forth to try to get him over. And they completely messed that up. Navy, like you said, Sal, Navy had their offense on the field for a 5th down. That game should have been over right then and there, instead of Army with the extra, that we're being forced to take a safety and the over and getting the over. I guess the refs had the over. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. It was an American Conference officiating crew. Who knows what we're in for next year? That's all I have to say.
Aren't you so excited to join the conference that these guys work in?
I think it's going to be super interesting what happens. Look, I know it's very unique, but if Army and Navy finish 1-1, they're going to be playing back to back for the conference championship and then for the CIC. That's going to be super weird.
That'll be weird.
We'll see. Maybe I don't know if it'll happen in year 1. We'll see. We know we got our hopes up for Army, but that
I don't think I certainly don't think Navy will ever face off against Army for the AAC title.
Yeah, so that was a key play in the game. It could have been the momentum, and if Army gets the ball, they're inside the 15 somewhere around there. And if they get a field goal, if they punch in another touchdown some way somehow, I have to say that would probably be a deflator for Navy.
The stop on the defensive play, we talked about how they stopped them on the 1 yard line, the pass out to the flat.
Mm-hmm.
Was that 3rd down or 4th down?
That was 3rd down.
3rd down.
Yeah. Then they had to
right? And the clock kept running. No more timeouts. The clock kept running. I looked up and I saw 7 seconds left. and it might have been, by the time he hiked the ball, it might have been 6 seconds. I don't understand what happened to the clock, why it was stopped with 3 seconds. They were pushing him for 5 to 10 to 15 seconds. There was a lot of pushing going on. And when did the refs blow that whistle? They might have blown it too quickly, or they may have just blown it. Who knows? It didn't matter, but
yeah,
it could have mattered.
I do have a real my not professional video is up on my X Twitter account of the ending there, and maybe you can hear the whistle there. I'll have to check it out. If you guys are on Twitter or X, anybody watching, you can check it out. It's on my account. Yeah, so I guess we put that punt to bed. We talked about a lot. Now we can get to the offense, and like I mentioned it, the offense. Yeah, I mean, you got the one touchdown on the Bryson Daly pass where we had the lonesome man out there with Tyson Riley. He had him and Seth. I saw it from the press box, right? We were sitting next to each other. I'm like, nobody's on Tyson Riley, and it was a good 5-second count where nobody even acknowledged he was even out there.
Yeah.
And Bryson Daly said in the press conference that he had to get the offense set before he could pass it out to Riley, because he was going to signal Riley to come in and be a blocker on the inside on the play. I guess it was an inside run call, and I guess you got audible on the fly, I guess, right? When that stuff.
He said it wasn't the play, and Riley was screaming, "Throw me the ball!" What I don't know whether, from what we saw in the press box, and we were kind of behind the play in the end zone, he took so long to get the ball to him that it was, from our angle, it looked like it was close to a pick six for Navy. The Navy defender showed up at the last second, and fortunately the ball got through to Riley, and that was a touchdown. But it could have gone the other way, and that would have been a game changer, perhaps. So, but that was not the play. Riley was out there. Navy was confused with the substitutions. That substitution rule is all over the place. We can talk about that another day. But it benefited Army. It could have gone the other way, but thank God Riley was screaming for the ball, and Daly kept his wits about him, made sure that everybody was set, and got the ball in there, and touchdown Army. Only offensive touchdown of the game.
Yeah. Real quick, the substitution stuff, right? That played a big role in this game at the end, because Navy had to spend a timeout in the third quarter on a substitution play, right? Where Nate Smith, I didn't believe it's Nate Smith. Sorry if it wasn't Nate Smith, jogging off the field with about 5 seconds left, 4 seconds left. Navy couldn't get a playoff in time. Got to call a timeout. They could have used that timeout at the end, certainly, right?
They got to change that rule. That rule's got to be changed, because it benefits the defensive team. They can take their time. And
with every other rule in today's game for the offense, Seth, give the defense some chance to at least equal the playing field.
It happened to Army early this year too. They had
the play you're going to run next, and have your guys ready on offense. Okay, you know the count. You know what formations you're going to run. I mean, come on, dude. You got to allow us to know the personnel and get on the field.
I respect you as a defensive player. I understand where you're coming from.
But that's tiring. Okay, we got to take our time on and off the field. All right.
Okay.
That played a huge role.
Seth is right, though. You're seeing it all over college football. Coaching staffs are getting smart. And if you want to sub late, go for it, offense, because we are going to take our sweet time, because we know we get the opportunity now to make it happen. If there's 20 seconds, 15 seconds left on the play clock, timeout or take the 5. I still maybe, I've never been an offensive player, but I still do not think a timeout is better than 5 yards. Maybe in Army Navy, and maybe in like the triple option, but like across the board, a timeout to me is much more precious than 5 yards that I can't get back at a later time. Like, I see people all the time like sacrifice a timeout to God forbid back us up 5 yards. Blows my mind. Blows my mind.
The second half. Especially the second half. I totally agree with you. You need those timeouts. They make all the difference in the world. They could make all the difference in the world.
It's probably like at least like 90% like situational. It's like, just take the 5 yards. Like,
yeah.
Analytics, right? Analytics will probably tell you just take the 5 yards, but I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, but yeah,
Hey,
no.
real quick on this, Ven Davis says offense was good for the first couple of drives. One of our drives was stopped due to non-holding penalty on Navy's number 15. I don't recall that at all. A couple of people have brought that up. I don't recall that play. Does anybody?
Oh, I think that was when they tried the deep shot.
Yeah.
The Noah Short.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's at least minimum 5 yards for holding prior to the ball being in the air.
Okay.
Yeah,
definitely affected.
Past the 5 yard or whatever the rule is now. He was clearly downfield, and before the ball was released, he was tugged back just enough. Now they might have said the ball was uncatchable, but I mean they don't say a lot of balls are uncatchable in today's game.
Well, holding wouldn't affect that. That would be pass interference. Holding would still be, if there was holding before the ball was released, that's holding. That doesn't matter whether the ball is uncatchable because it's before the ball is released.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So there you go. I didn't see it. I don't know.
That ball was, to me, ball was not thrown ahead of Short. It was thrown a little underthrown. So I think it was kind of in a catchable position, maybe from my perspective in the press box. I don't know, but
I agree with you.
Would that have been like, that would have made that? I guess that was a second down play. It wasn't a third down play because I remember I'm like, why are they throwing deep on second down? It was like 2nd and 5. Run the ball and get closer to moving the chains, and then I don't know. Like to me,
you gotta. They obviously saw something. The guy had him beat, Sal, so they were clearly thinking run. All right, the guy had him beat, and it was clear he was pulled back. Like it was. I remember watching the replay and be like, dude, that is holding. Like that should be a first down there. But they missed it. And we just overcame and adapted. But it's still frustrating.
I'll also say, I mean, this is kind of like getting back to the defense a little bit, but since we're nitpicking officials' calls here, one of the long runs that Lavatai had in the fourth quarter, it was on the backside of the play, but it looked like 2 offensive linemen were engaged on a defender in a way that I've certainly seen referees called shot block on Army for doing that, even if it wasn't a shot block by the letter of the law. Yeah. So I was a little frustrated with that.
Man, the officials just not, Hey, Army won anyway. The offense, I want to give myself a little bit of credit here in the prediction time story. I thought that Kanye Udo would get a run in this game. From what I was hearing, I thought, he didn't carry the ball at all against Coastal because they went to that under center stuff. And I'm like, I think they're going to put Kanye Udo in a lot, and I think he's going to play a pretty solid role in this game. And he did. He led the team with 88 rushing yards. Freshman, it's the most yardage by a freshman in an Army-Navy game since our buddy Kel Walker in 2016. I believe Kel Walker had 94 yards his freshman year against Navy. So, I looked it up. Like since 2016, it's like Bradshaw, Walker. I think there is maybe another Bradshaw in the 90s, and then there's Kanye Udo. It might be the 4th best rushing number against Navy since 2016 by an Army player. Pretty impressive on 13 carries. I think he took a couple Wildcat snaps if I'm correct. And I think that here's my thing with the offense, guys. Their longest play of the game on offense was 15 yards, a 15-yard run by Kanye Udo. I mean, I don't want to really get into a great debate about the gun option, but there's just not many big plays in this gun option for Army this year. And yeah, it's a smash mouth, fist fight of a service academy game. But in those games, usually those big plays play a pretty good role. And Army just didn't have any on yesterday.
We had a 44-yard play, Sal.
Defense, yeah. The longest play of the game was on defense for Army. Right, by 30 yards. It's like, come on. Can you just? I don't know.
I was surprised that they went with the shotgun offense and for the whole game, especially in certain situations where you have a 3rd and 2, a 4th and 2, and you have your quarterback lining up 5-6 yards deep. I was hoping that they would mix it up at least. I'm curious what's going to happen. It's a long way off. It's 9 months off, but what's going to happen next year? What kind of offense they're going to do. And I think we'll have an idea way before that, because I think, Monken will come out and say it. But, I'm not a fan of it. You said before the Army went 159 minutes without scoring a touchdown during the season. That's an offense.
Without scoring any points.
Any points, even worse. Okay. That's a lot. That's a lot of time. We only had one offensive touchdown today. It's something that has to be looked at. Maybe a mixed match. Do it once in a while. Don't do it once in a while. I don't have an answer. I'm not a football coach, but
I told my buddies I was watching the game with, I was like, whatever we come out with in the first drive is what we're going to be running. We weren't going to split time during the weeks and, hey, we're going to do half the reps in shotgun, half the reps in triple option. I didn't think that didn't fit my, whatever you want to call it. Didn't pass my common sense test. It makes sense to go to the Wildcat because it's still shotgun. It's just a different guy catching it. It's essentially the RPO. So it's kind of similar. But as soon as they came out in shotgun, it was kind of like, all right, this is what we're going with. But I gotta, I'm with you. I'm behind you. So
Monken said it during the press conference on Tuesday that Drew Thatcher was going to be calling the plays again. He did not call the plays against Coastal. So I agree with you. Once he said that to me, I said, okay, they're going to the shotgun because he's not a under center offensive coordinator according to them. I don't know, but according to them. So I knew that too. I was just hoping they would do something a little different, but hey, they won the game.
We have a couple comments from Ken Harms that I passed by. Let's get these in. We did not used to be stronger. Monken and the strength coach has made a big difference. Connor Hughes is a big part of this team. He's a big part of this team, the head strength and conditioning coach. I saw a post. Chris Frey had a post on his Instagram, I believe, with a picture of him and Connor Hughes, thanking Connor Hughes for everything he's done for him. And when Steve, I don't know, when you were playing, Satan was the strength coach, right? Or no? Or did they have Gertch?
No, we had Gabe Harrington my first couple of years, and then Brett Gertz came in, junior, senior year when Coach Ellison brought.
How important is that relationship between the players and the head strength and conditioning coach? Because it's a little different than watching X and O's, obviously, in film room, right? Stuff. I mean, you build maybe a little bit more of a different type of relationship in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, right, you got to have confidence in the program that it's going to get you bigger, stronger, faster, better. One of my favorite quotes that I have said since I left West Point was, life's too short to be small, weak, and slow. All right, it's big. That's in our strength. That's in our strength room. You walk in, it says life's too short to be small, weak, or slow. So I think there has a lot to do with the relationship being, knowing that the program's working, because you're not just seeing physical results, you're seeing results on the field. You got to establish that culture where, look, guys, you can only, the culture that you want is guys to do the program, and then you can only work out so many hours throughout the day, but in their off time, in their free time, they're in there and, hey, coach, what, I don't want to jeopardize the program, right? Because you don't want to overtrain. What can I do today? What can I spend an extra hour on back in my barracks room? What, flexibility, mobility, all that different stuff. And if you've got a coach that you trust, it's gospel, man. Like, your strength coach tells you, your nutritionist tells you, like, you're going to believe them when you trust them. So I 100% agree. Like, The same way we look at Coach Thatcher and another coach on the team, like that's who the strength coach is, man. Like
He's high up there. Yeah.
Make no mistake about it.
Yeah, and Connor Hughes has now been around the program for a while. I mean, you see sometimes strength coaches move every other year or something like that. He's committed to the program, Connor Hughes, no doubt, 1,000%, and it showed on the field. A quick question here from Ken. Does anybody know what happened to – he's referring to Isaiah Alston. He didn't play the last several games. Apparently, Isaiah had a knee injury, not an ankle injury, so that's why he's missed time. And I guess the knee injury was severe enough to where, he couldn't play. He hadn't played since the Syracuse game. So the last 8 games, Army didn't have one of its best wide receivers. It's funny that now I think about Tyson Riley, 3 receiving touchdowns led the team, right? 3 receiving touchdowns as an H back, as a full, as a B back, as the Swiss Army knife, so to speak. You remember Coach Ellerson's Swiss Army knife, right, Steve? Terms back in the day. So Swiss Army knife, Tyson Riley. We have a couple more comments here. Van Davis, Coach Munkett had a point. I definitely think the offense helped us win the CIC. The teams, we should go under center, standard triple. Not sure if it is feasible. More from Miss Ken M saying, how many did T-Rod get the ball? I only remember a couple times. 1 carry for Tyrell Robinson. Yep, 5 yards. He did have a punt return that he returned, maybe 10 yards, 10, 15 yards, somewhere around there.
Right.
Real quick, Commander-in-Chief's trophy, right? Now, I posted before the press conference, and I was talking to an Army official on the field. I'm like, where's the ceremony for the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, right? They sang the alma mater. I'm walking around waiting for the Commander-in-Chief's trophy to be on the field and to be presented to the Army for being the 2023 CIC champs. Well, apparently the trophy's still in Air Force's possession. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to tweet that out because, Air Force still has possession of the trophy. It's not here. And maybe it wasn't here for good reason. Because if Navy would have won the game, Air Force would have retained the trophy, right? So why send the trophy to Boston if you were going to retain it anyway? If they were going to retain it anyway. Now, we cover Army. We want, of course, we didn't want to see that happen. But that's, I guess, their side. I want to be fair here. That's their side. So everybody's saying, oh, I see pictures of the players with the CIC trophy. It's here in Boston. It was a replica of the CIC trophy. So I just wanted to make that clear, in all fairness, because sometimes I think, in the spur of the moment.
Now, whatever, dude. No, send the trophy. These taxpayer dollars send that thing. Wait, you're going to tell me inflation, shipping costs are too high? You can't send a trophy there and back? All right? Like, make this special, dude. This is the Commander-in-Chief trophy. You're meeting the president. Give me my trophy the minute I earn it. I don't want to hear anything else. I don't care.
Yeah.
I think you can retain it. You know what? Army, the loser pays shipping costs to ship it back next year. Okay? Like, what are you talking about here? All right, I get it. It's a huge, gigantic trophy. All right, probably costs $1,000 to ship or whatever it is.
70 pounds, right? 70 pounds or something like that? Or is it heavier than that?
I don't know. I never held it, unfortunately, okay? So stop rubbing it in.
I believe there's 5 Stanley Cups. So they who knows what they do with those Stanley Cups.
It's just such an Air Force thing to do. And they wonder why nobody likes them. Not Navy fans, not Army fans, barely Air Force fans like them because they can't do the simple thing and send the CIC where it belongs in case and when it was going to happen. We were favored, for crying out loud. Just ridiculous. Absolute ridiculous. Poor showmanship. And I don't care, Sal. I don't care if they're like, well, maybe it's 50-50 chance. All right, you took away something from those seniors that they'll never be able to do. All right, yeah, they got to do the replica, whatever, but it's not the same. All right, you have guys that are they have 6 months to reframe their minds to where they're going to be leading men and women. Okay, American sons and daughters. Give them that experience for the 70-pound, whatever, postage stamp. Okay, ridiculous.
Steve, just give me a clip.
it's not like the trophy even stays in a trophy case for even 360 days a year. People like take it out, they tour it around, they do all kinds of things with it. And I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure however much the trophy weighs is nothing compared to the hauling capacity of a C5. So I'm with Steve. What are we doing here?
What are we doing here? What are we doing?
I will say Bryson Daly said that they've had a picture of the CIC trophy in the case where it should be at West Point in the football facility, and that kind of definitely was motivation for them to go out and win these games this year to get that trophy back. And I mean, they retained it in 2021, right? It went back to Air Force in 2022. So this will be 3 of the last 4 years to be at West Point. And, I mean, number one goal of the program, right, Steve? To win the CIC trophy, beat Navy. Those are the top goals in the program. Those were both accomplished on Saturday. So, I mean.
And you might be able to see it I know you got a long list of comments. But I forget who made the comment earlier about how this affects recruiting with the CICs and the competition. And look, I've been in touch with there's people that have reached out to me. I knew a couple of recruits on the sidelines and at the game yesterday. And I'll tell you, it matters, man. It matters big time when you have a player that's on the fence regardless of where he's from, what it means to him to be a part of a program, and he sees firsthand what winning is like at a program and just how much fun it can be and the guys he gets to be around. It matters. So it just incredible ending. And just, again, I couldn't be more proud of how our guys held the line at the end.
Hey, Steve, to your point, I watch a lot of college football games during the year from August till January. This is a special game. And there's not much out there that matches this. So if I'm a kid and I'm, considering West Point or Annapolis, and you get to go and watch one of these games in person with 65, 70 or 80,000 people in attendance and a national TV audience, the ratings are always good. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to today watch the game, and you don't see that. Even when Michigan plays Ohio State, I don't think you get that kind of a crowd. And it's America's game. It really is. This is a special game that I've always said it to anybody. Go to an Army. You want to see college football at its best? Go to Army Navy. That's it. It's this year, every year. I mean, nobody wants to see a blowout, of course not. But they're never blowouts recently. But it's really a super game, and it's the way it's played and where it's at. Even up in New England, the first time ever, it was different. Sal and I had trouble finding our parking lot and stuff, but it's still, the crowd was a buzz. Yeah. Last year was spectacular in Philly. I was in the crowd up at the Meadowlands, and I got to tell you something. You felt it. My son went with me. He goes, "This is the best college football experience I've ever had." And he's not an Army fan. He's not an Army fan. He's a Syracuse fan or somebody else, whatever he roots for. But he sat there and he said, "This is the best experience I've ever had."
And that's what bringing those recruits to the game does, man. Like, it shows them firsthand just how special and just what kind of fraternity you're gonna, what kind of fraternity you're gonna enter into. And it's just, the comment said it all. Winning matters. It always does. Yeah. Right. Lombardi. It's not everything. It's the only thing. And it can solve a lot of future problems. But yeah, 3 of the last 4. Just God, the fact that it's not back at the Air Force Academy, it better be at West Point today. I swear to God. They like that.
Bryson Daly wanted it Monday at West Point. I don't think that's going to happen, dude. I think it's the stall tactics are in effect. So.
Oh my God! Well, give it up.
We'll get it soon. Okay. Hey, I think Air Force is jealous of Army and Navy. I think so.
Of course they are. They are. Look, we're not going to do this. All right. We already know where Air Force stands in the trifecta. Okay. So, but back. It just one last comment for me before I bounce out of here.
Yeah.
It's gonna this at the very minimum of what this season did, right? With the CIC, we have a starting point of what the standard is and what we're rebuilding from. Okay. And we're not starting from zero. And, the standard set again that, hey, first year, new offense, we won the CIC. No excuses. We know what it takes. Let's get to work. Work starts Monday, man. It's, just has to.
Good point.
Yeah. I mean, for all of the hand wringing that a lot of fans have done, especially this season, but also last year, the fact that 6-6 and beating Navy and competing for the CIC, this is now the floor of the program. That would have been the ceiling in the 90s, like we've come a long way. And certainly
2000 to 2015, that would have been.
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
We would have been overjoyed, right?
But
hey, Steve, I'm sorry, Brendan. Okay.
Yeah. So for Navy, 4 losing seasons in a row now. They haven't been there since basically Paul Johnson started in the early 2000s. So I don't imagine they're winning too many recruiting battles, and certainly going into next season, Air Force is graduating all of their super COVID seniors. That was 17 starters for them this past season. Navy, they went back and forth between 2 senior quarterbacks this year. Army, they had a lot of growing pains in the offense this year, but they have a quarterback, they have a center, and they have a lot of pieces in place going into next year. So I think they're certainly set up for continued CIC dominance, if not making a lot of noise in the AAC. Certainly, there's not going to be 3 Power 5s on the schedule next year. There's only going to be 1, if that. So,
yeah. Real quick, before we go pointing to Air Force and stuff like that, Army did have a bunch of 5th-year guys on their team this year too. So we can't overlook that. There was I think 10 5th-year guys. So that certainly experience certainly helps,
But I mean, at least from the starting rosters that I saw on TV watching the Air Force game, it wasn't nearly as many roster spots taken up at Army as it was for them.
How many 5th-year COVID guys was it? Guys that didn't get the year because of COVID.
Army, I think it was more non-COVID situations, to be honest with you. But
yeah,
we can name them, but I mean, I don't know. I just want to be fair. Yeah, I just want to be fair because Army's doing. They're not doing the COVID thing, but they are doing 5th-year stuff too. So, and they did done in the past with injuries, right, Steve?
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't play, if the rules were what they were now when I played, I would have played my 5th year instead of sitting out because I used my 4 years as a freshman, sophomore, junior. I was there at the academy for my 5th-year football season because I left the academy when I tore my ACL. So I left for a semester. So I could have played that 5th year, but that wasn't the rule back then.
Yeah, there's some situations with injury. There might be some with academics. There might be
Mike Gann and Jason Johnson, 2 guys that I played with. 5th-year guys.
We have Mike Fulowski saying, great point, Brendan. Navy was not good, but we did win 4 conference games, so that made both. But they did win 4 conference games, Navy. So who knows?
But I think that kind of speaks to the overall strength or perhaps lack thereof of the conference.
I agree.
The beloved conference that we're so excited to be joining.
We'll see. Anything else, guys, before we get out of here?
I just want to say to Steve's point before about starting on Monday. Last year, after they won in Philly, Monkey, I was talking to him on the side. He goes, "Yeah." I said something about taking a day off. He goes, "You kidding me? On Monday, I'm on a plane to the West Coast for recruiting."
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it may not be Monday, but I'm sure the next couple of days he and his team are on the recruiting path.
That's
I think today was a celebration, and tomorrow, like you said, it's back to work.
Yeah, no doubt. Air Force coaches have been out last week recruiting during the Army Navy prep, so they're trying to jump ahead of the Army on some recruits. So Army coaches, assistant coaches certainly are out there too. What a great win for Army, 17-11 at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. They claimed the CIC trophy. It's all theirs. Trophy hopefully will be on the way to West Point sooner than later. And we can't thank people watching tonight. I've gotten a lot of comments from people thanking us for the coverage and covering the team. And we appreciate the people who are reading our stories, going to our social medias and watching these podcasts. We really appreciate you. And the comments were just great today. And the feedback's been awesome. So we couldn't have done it without Steve Anderson, Seth Mendelson, and Brendan and Jersey. Thanks so much, guys. And we'll see you soon. We'll probably do a wrap show sooner than later coming up, season wrap show down the road before the holidays. And thanks so much and have a great night.
Good night, guys.
Beat 'em.